I mean, what can I say? From day one of this administration, I have said that there is an attack on all immigrants, not just undocumented or illegal immigrants, but legal immigration. And the administration has been trying to roll back legal immigration, both temporary and permanent. And until now, they were unable to do it. But with coronavirus as an excuse and tapping emergency powers and trying to use those, the president is actually looks like going to be able to achieve his aims, at least temporarily. We do expect that this is going to end up in court very quickly. Large companies that are going to be impacted, like Microsoft and Apple and universities, healthcare, they can all sue, and I'm pretty sure somebody is going to be bringing a class action.
Now let's also take a look at the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA programs. What does the U.S. Supreme Court's latest ruling mean, and what happens next?
So what the Attorney General did at the time, Jeff Sessions, was he pronounced DACA illegal, and the Secretary of Homeland Security, Elaine Duke, at the time, she ended the program citing the Attorney General's statement that the DACA program itself was unlawful. And what the Supreme Court did was they actually rejected the cancellation of the program on a technicality. That phrase, arbitrary, capricious, and contrary to law, is in the Administrative Procedure Act. And that act basically says that there is a reasonable process that has to be gone through for government action. So, for example, for changes in regulations, there has to be notice to the public, there has to be a comment period, and the public has to have a chance to comment on it before the agency takes the final action. In general, DACA was established by executive order, and there is no action that the executive can take that the next executive cannot undo. He absolutely can end the program, and he has, indicated that he intends to do so.
So then talk about the economic implications of the ruling. What does this mean for these dreamers and their families right now, especially in the middle of a pandemic?
So what's been really interesting about this is the injunction against the DACA ruling, it applied to people who already had DACA. So those people who had DACA have been able to renew their status up until now. And in anticipation of this decision, DACA holders all over the country have renewed their work cards, and they have 2 years. The expectation is that the government is going to phase the program out and not immediately cancel their status. And given the way the election is looking in November, as long as we can make it to January, it may work out well for DACA recipients and their families.
So then how likely is it that the Trump administration will try again to dismantle DACA, and will they have enough time with the elections just over 4 months away?
Yes, yeah. You can go through the Administrative Procedure Act, process pretty quickly. It is going to take some time, and it will be subject to another legal challenge. The one thing that the Supreme Court did that forecloses a path for challenge is they determined that this was not a equal protection violation, which means that the Trump administration was not acting with discriminatory intent. I'm not quite sure how they got to that. Justice Sotomayor wrote a very blistering dissent in which she basically said, we've all seen what the Trump administration has been doing and saying to immigrants for the past 4 years, but the majority said there was no discrimination, and so the Supreme Court is they determine what's lawful and what's not, despite what Secretary Chad Wolf said. So we're not going to be able to challenge it based on that. But there will be other challenges. And again, time is our friend,
right,
if the election goes the way that we hope it will.
Now, we know that Silicon Valley has been very outspoken on immigration matters, especially as several of the Valley's biggest companies were founded by or led by immigrants. How has reaction from the tech world and the rest of corporate America been to these latest immigration announcements?
So the tech world in Silicon Valley have been huge advocates for DACA. I actually I attended an HNBA webinar, that's the Hispanic National Bar Association, where they had representatives from Apple and other companies talking about how they were doing advocacy and lobbying and to support DACA. And so they have been very supportive. They're very unhappy with the administration's position on immigration. It makes no sense because all of the actual data shows that immigrants are engines of the economy and small business owners at a larger rate. And we've seen in the coronavirus pandemic a large proportion of small businesses that have gone under that are not going to come back. So this administration has just approached immigration not from a reason standpoint, but really as a way to foment support from the Trump base.